Riders, your parents have listened to me far too much today, so it gives you an opportunity, hopefully, some of the things that they've considered to share with you. It's about pulling all the different strands, the bits of the jigsaws, the stuff that you've done about nutrition, the stuff you've done about fitness and the physical side of things. Try and share all your experiences and your ideas today. The last session, hopefully, this is a reinforcement of something that you already do. But it's a very simple process that you can do again and again and again and build on. You can try and track your own progress. Very much about performance profiling and goal setting. We spoke about the characteristics and the building blocks for elite performer development. In other words, you becoming the best riders, your best people you possibly can be. And one of them is realistic performance evaluation and goal setting. Knowing what you're good at, what you need to get better at. So there is a tiny bit of theory. The idea that when we're action planning, it needs to be individualized. Everybody will have something different. Everybody will select something different that they need. And you'll decide on that in negotiation with your triad or your dyad. You and your parents and your coaches, having a conversation, different perspectives, coming up with a shared, coherent focus of the future. Hopefully, it's developmental. It's all about you getting better. It is very objective, so we need to be able to measure things eventually, and it needs to be something that motivates, that the riders want to get involved with, want to get better at. Again, what the papers say, we've got task and ego orientation, we've got things like self-determination, motivation. You need to take ownership as the rider with support, from your coach and your parents driving and helping you go forwards. It's all about the fact that you're in the center, you're in control. This will help you decide how good you are, which areas you need to improve on, how you're going to improve on them, and it needs to relate to you being a rider and what you're going to do. And there's lots of different theory about intrinsic motivation, doing it for yourselves, not because your parents tell you that you've got to do it. I'm sure if you've been to school, teachers will talk to this about as well. There's lots of different behaviours that we can do as coaches and parents, and we've been talking about some of those things and how we can support you in the sessions that you haven't seen today. So, very simple, performance profiling. You'll probably do a lot at school with individual learning plans, individual development plans, and it's about trying to decide what's important, what is our baseline, where do we want to get to, what do we need to do, and it's about making sure that the coach and the parent and yourself are all involved in a coaching conversation. And if you are the parent coach, it's an even more important conversation to have. You will have seen the different profile wheels, performance wheels, where they shade them in from the inside, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, if you give yourself a different score. And we can talk about how we're going to decide through reverse engineering, where do you want to be in the future, go backwards, what steps do we need to take, go back, go back, go back, go back, go back. We can work out specific tasks, there's all sorts of different things. Okay. One of the worries or concerns is when we look at somebody that's won, the Tour de France, etc., and we look at their developmental journey and then we try and copy that on the stages that go backwards. You're all individual, you're all totally different, you're all growing at different rates. It needs to be your plan, not a copy of somebody else's plan that's gone out there and won things. So the research base, again, Maggio Valorand, autonomy supportive behaviours that would link to that. But here is a performance profile task. You'll get, as part of the pack, a little worksheet that takes you through to be able to do this in more detail. We're very mindful, it's the end of a long Sunday, you're very, very tired. So we're just trying to give you a snapshot how you do the process. Hopefully it'll be useful. Start the conversation today between you and your parent and your coach, the coach and the rider. There's different stages, so we need to identify the characteristics that you want. We're going to try and select the 10 that are most important to you. We're then going to rank order them. We're then going to take 1 or 2 of them and create a plan that you can take away with you today. So how will that happen? Whistle stop tour. The starting point is a mind map. What are all the different elements of performance or things that will support you at being a better rider and a better athlete? And I've started off by trying to put some of these on here. You'll have to be careful, the guys will hand out little things. But if we've got the performer, we've got the mental areas, reaction time, mental toughness, self-discipline, self-organisation, focus, resilience, commitment. We've got technical side, so is it riding in line, starts, descending, cornering, climbing, descending? Is it the physical side? Nutrition, sleep, very important. Are you getting 13 hours a day? All the riders here. Leg power, flexibility, endurance, core strength, speed off the start, stability. We've got emotional development. Are you self-motivated? Accurate performance analysis. Coping with pressure, communication skills, self-confidence. And up at the top, tactical. Do you understand about starts, bike setup, slow speed riding, gap management, group riding, attacking and finishing. That's only the start of the mind map. You and your parents and your coaches will hopefully be able to expand things. Okay, so it'll start off quite small, you might make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then once you've done that, all that you've got to do is cross out, circle, put a liner through it, put a bit of colour on, decide what you think are the 10 most important things for you as a rider to get better. And you will have seen these profile wheels probably in lots and lots of different domains, and all that you do here is we've got 8 segments. So numbers 1 to 8 that you thought were the most important, ranked ordered from 1 to 10, so whichever is 1 to 8, you will just simply write those around the outside of the wheel, and then you'd have a conversation for each one of scoring yourself on what you think your personal level, ability, stage of development is on those from 0 to 10. Now this is very, very subjective. Everybody's scale is going to be slightly different, and as you go further down the process, there will be key performance indicators, there will be levels, there will be measures that you could measure yourself against. But this is personalised. This is just simply for you. So you might have a conversation with your parents and coaches, well, what on earth would a 10 look like? If I score a 10 out of 10 on self-confidence, what on earth does that look like? So that might be the starting point. Okay, let's now measure where do we think you are at the moment, I am at the moment on self-confidence. If it's my technical knowledge of race starts, well, what would a 10 be? What would I need to know? And again, this is just a process of starting those conversations, of having that awareness and having that mutual understanding of what people know and what people are talking about. So once you've actually rated yourself, you fill in or you shade in, and there should be some pens on the desk. And an example would come up with this. So you might have things around the outside. You would shade in, you might only get to level 2 out of 10 on one, you might get to 8 out of 10 on another, 8 out of 10, you might be 10 out of 10. Everybody's profile wheel will be slightly different, different shapes, different shadings. But then this is a really good visual representation. Some of the other examples, the parents who are coaches, one of the things is, the dark stuff is by here the athlete, and the shaded one was actually the coach that did the same. So they tried to make a judgment of their athlete. The athlete made a judgment. They were slightly different, the shadings, and that opened up yet another fantastic conversation. Why are you scoring yourself at that? Are you too high? Are you too low? This realistic performance evaluation. So we're going to make it very simple. It's just the rider to shade in here to see where they are, and we'll use this to do some goal setting to take away with you today, but you can use these in many other formats as well. Is that okay? So you finish the first one and then try and shade in this little profile wheel. But we need to do something once we get to this stage where we have a shape, and again, personality wise, some people will score themselves. I heard a gentleman say, always 2s and 3s, 3s and 4s, other people's 8s and 9s. So again, everyone's different, it's their perception of themselves. But when we come up with some sort of map here, what do we do with it? Well, one of the things is to use this for the goals that we set ourselves in the future. Now, there is a strange occurrence that sometimes the thing that young athletes are very, very good at and perceive themselves being very, very good at, they want to practice and practice and practice and set targets and set goals and just keep doing and keep doing and keep doing. However, if we look on here, if we pick the one where the athletes only scored themselves a 2 to do with scanning and spatial awareness, our advice and guidance as parents and coaches will be those are the areas that we need more support on, that we need to try and develop. Because we've said it's important for your development as a rider. We've said it's something that you're not as good at as you would like to be at the moment. That's how you've perceived yourself. So we would probably take these 2 areas now, spatial awareness and scanning, and we'd have to set some goals, some targets, some actions that we can take away from today. So again, I'll talk again for a couple of minutes and then we'll continue with this activity and the final one. So if we are thinking about goal setting, obviously there can be, distal and proximal goals, or short term, medium term, long term. We can go through all the different terminology, but sleep is on that list. And I've not heard many people talk about sleep. You become a toddler, 13 hours a night. You become a child, 10 hours a night. You become a teenager, you revert to being a toddler, 13 hours a night. How do you get 13 hours a night sleep, rest, recuperation, Think about that over the week. You know, why do teenagers not want to get up in the morning? Biorhythms changing so that they're more active mentally from 11 o'clock in the morning onwards, and more active at night than in the morning. And again, these are some of the things. So a target might be, I need an early night, because if not, I'm not going to recuperate. Or it could be long term because of what we've seen on television and where we want to be. So we thought short, medium, long term, and we can talk about mastery goals and competitive goals and all the rest of it. We can quite often think about the process, which is wonderful. The parents, we've had a conversation about process and outcome and products. But ultimately, you know, again, everything to me is a donut. You know, we need to pick goals, pick the things that are critical for your success. Don't pick the things that you're already really good at and you're scoring yourselves 8, 9s and 10s. Pick the ones that you're scoring 2s and 3s to try and get better at. But again, that's a conversation with your parents, with the coach, at your life stage where you're at the moment. Some things will be applicable, some won't. But that's why you have to really understand, you know, each other and working as a team. So what would we do? A very simple model is the GROW model for setting targets. So we've got whatever we want our goal to be, and again we need to have a look at the profile wheel, talk with our parents about what that could be. What's the reality? So where am I now? Realistic performance evaluation. I've given myself a 2. Am I just being really cruel on myself? The coach knows I'm much, much better than that. My parents know I'm better than that. But I'm worried about it, so I've given myself a 2 or a 3. Or I've given myself a 9, an 8, and we need a realistic conversation. Well, you know, what are you saying a 10? If you think you're an 8, what on earth is a 10 in your world? And then we can have that discussion and modify it. If that is our goal, what options are there to help me achieve that goal? What obstacles are there in the way? What opportunities are there? Because quite often we just have a word or a phrase, and then it's difficult. What do we do with it? This is the bit to take home, leaving today. You know, what will I commit to? As the rider, as the young person, what were you going to commit to after today? Is it nutrition? Because of the nutrition workshop that you've done? Is it going to be the physical development? You know, do you need to know a lot more about the technical, the bike setup? Are you going to do that yourself? I did notice most of the parents took the lead in the bike setup, whether they were reading the sheets of paper or they were, you know, showing them with the tape measures or anything else. The rider is at the centre of this, okay? And that's why I've been going around saying, are you taking ownership? Are you driving this? So what are you going to commit to? So how we're going to finish off, okay, is we're going to set goals. So there's a sheet that if you've got time, you could actually pick 2 goals. If not, with your parents and with your coach, if you just carry this exercise out to do one thing that you're going to take away from today that you're going to commit to, and you can ask other people some help and support. What do you do with your goals? You need to live them. It's no point a piece of paper, it goes away, we had a great conversation there, we don't look at it again for the rest of the year. Different sports work on different tactics. Some of them will put the goals on the water bottle. If you think about the hockey goalminder, had all her goals about penalty saving, actually on her drinks bottle in the goal, so she could keep referring to it. Post-it notes at home, you know, sending yourselves postcards. This is old school. You know, text messages, sending yourself voicemails and all the rest of it. Writing things on the inside of your shoes, inside your helmet. Doing an audio, a podcast, and playing it back to yourself in the car when you're going backwards and forwards. Putting some tape on your bike and actually writing what your goals are so that during the race you can refer to them and they're real. Okay, so that is what we need to get to, you know, to be targeted, you know, to have, and we can talk about smart targets and everything else, but the idea is we've got a goal, we need to be realistic, have that conversation with your parents and with your coaches, come up with what, you know, what's reality, what can help, what might make things difficult. So we need to know what all the road bumps are going to be, the rocky road in the journey of achieving this goal, and then we need to agree something with your parents, make a psychological contract with your parents, with your coaches. This is what we're going to do when we walk out of this room for the next day, the next week, the next month before we go to training. So that's the final exercise.